Hello, hello, testing, testing. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Just setting up a few more things before we get started. All right. Cool. So I have the chat next to me. This is the creature character, mecha character we're working on. Yeah, so we're gonna get started with this. I'm gonna show you some polishing techniques, some things that you can do at this stage. Once you have like a rough sketch idea, we're gonna continue to define this a little bit better, design a few things, yeah, and just have some fun. Just for for those of you who are not part of my email list, I got COVID, so I'm in the recovering process, so I might not be as I might not be my usual self, so I'm a little bit tired. But yeah, this is something that helps me, get back into it. So yeah, so we're gonna have some fun. Just wanna try not to speak for too long, so it's gonna be a pretty chilling session. All right, let's go ahead and I'm gonna bring in the move brush, just to show you kind of like what we have so far. We have this very rough sketch. I'm gonna turn off polypaint, right? So it's pretty rough. If I turn on polyframe as well, you'll see it's yeah, it's a mess in terms of the topology, but it serves the purpose of what we're trying to do at this very stage, which is design an interesting concept, right? Anything that, in terms of like, if you start already to think about, I don't know, like, is this character going to be for a game, or how are you going to animate it and all of that? It's a fair enough concept and a good idea to have it in your head, but it's not not necessarily something that I would be worrying too much about at this very early stage, because it can truncate the design process. So I'm not worried about, like, things like this mess that you have here, and the difference between these large polygons and the concentration of points in here. That's not the point right now. And precisely this is what I want to show you today. Like, once you have this and you're happy with the sketch, you can just go ahead and polish it in a whole bunch of different ways. But for now, let's go ahead and continue the design process a little bit, just because I'm not happy with these blobs for the for the boots. So I'm gonna concentrate on making the boots a little bit more interesting. Maybe break up the silhouette a little bit more, enhancing these kind of like shoulder pads, or breaking up the silhouette. Yeah, just so general tweaks of the design. Maybe this seems to be too what would be the word to describe it? Like too default, like too standard. So I might just change that a little bit as well. Let's have a look. Oh, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm feeling much better. Last week was a bit of a struggle. But yeah, I got like 3 shots, like 3 vaccine shots. So it hasn't been that bad. It's more about like being like super tired. Just going up the stairs. It's a struggle, but yeah, feeling better now. All right. So I'm just thinking of just looking at this from different angles. I'm just gonna, by the way, I have all the pieces in this folder. I just unified everything into a single one, so it is a little bit easier. But as I showed you, I still have polygroups, so I can sort of like hide this piece, right, and just play around with that. So what I might do is take this bit and maybe split it so that I can have control over this plate separately. Let's see. Yeah, but I want to keep that. All right, so I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna isolate this, and I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate it. Sorry, split hidden. So now I have it here. Again, there's different ways of going about it. For me, the simplest way in this case would be to have two duplicates and just kind of like split it into the pieces that I need. So I'm going to duplicate this, turn off perspective. This first one is going to be the top area. So I can, you know what, let's use the knife lasso just to cut this. So I'm going to hold Control and Shift. Just cut this thing away. Potentially this bit as well. And here. All right, I think that should be good. Obviously, we can mirror, and weld. So we have just this piece. And let's go ahead and check this without the other one. So here's the single plate. Again, we can redynamize if we need to, but at this stage it's just fine. I just want to have this as a separate piece. And then we can bring in the other one and just get rid of that part. But we don't have to, again, we don't have to cut it like I just did. So we don't have to do this. Although, you know, it might be just an easy way. Yeah, let's just keep it simple. So, but you don't have to do it this way. You can, you know, start sculpting things away. And that's it. Just gonna smooth this out. All right, but as you can see, it's pretty much the same thing as we had before. The difference is that obviously now we have two pieces, and that makes it a lot easier to do things like this. So I'm just gonna take this and pull this down. And even though this is you know, still very sketchy piece, this is the beginning of kind of like refining the concept. So you can start splitting things up, and that also help you to sharpen certain gaps, like in this case, just for the simple fact that they're separate pieces and they're still sketchy, but you will be able to yeah, polish them as you go. So pretty much what I'm doing right now. All right. All right, so that's just one way to go about it. Let's go ahead and merge everything together. You don't have to do this, but yeah, I think that's all right. All right, so let's go ahead and do a quick design for the boots and working on that, and then we move into refining things a little bit. The other thing I wanted to do is, I mean, something pretty subtle, which is I'm gonna isolate this bit of the shoulder pads, mask them, wear the masking, and do this type of thing. So it's mostly like just playing around with the silhouette, the lines, the outline basically. And just this is to make the silhouette more interesting. You know, I want to keep things, even though this is a hard surface mecha type of thing, I want to keep things organic, so that they feel organic, or like very, I would say, curvy in a way. So I don't want sharp angles or anything like that. I will show you how to do that, right? But it's not necessarily the design or the stylization that I'm going for. All right, let's clear that mask. So very subtle, but now you have these, you know, interesting shapes going on here on top. And another thing that I wanted to do is this area right here. I'm going to use the clay brush, and I'm just going to push. Oh, let's isolate it first. Mask it, invert it, and invert the mask. So I just want to push these. Okay, so something like that, just to make it a bit more functional, I guess. This could even be even more to the side, so that the character can bend the arm properly, like this way. So this bit right here becomes obsolete, I guess. Oh, we can move it. I'm gonna get rid of it. Right. So this is kind of like the most important, say, advice I can give you if you're doing something similar or just trying to design something similar. It's not to like get too attached to anything. Like, as you can see, you can tweak things and change. And if you change something that is going to help the design, why wouldn't you, right? Like, it's a no-brainer. Just, if it works, it's better just to do it. And these little tweaks that I'm doing, even though that I'm distorting certain things, they help to redefine the silhouette. And because I have everything in a single subtool, it's a lot easier to just do it with the move brush. All right, so again, let's go back to the boots. So I think what I can do with this, let's isolate them first, and let's split it so that we can work on them separately. And potentially, let's separate these other pieces as well, just to have them as reference. Right, let's split that, and then let's hide the rest. Okay, so yeah, we basically have the legs and the boots separately, or the shoes. And what I'm going to do is kind of like split these sections that I wanna have like separate pieces, if that makes sense. So let's duplicate the boots, so they're living exactly in the same area. I'm just going to inflate them a bit, like so, right? I don't know, let's turn this off. I don't know if you can see it, but there's definitely, the second ones are kind of like encompassing the rest, right? And this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep duplicating this piece at this stage, and I'm gonna remove things that I don't need. So for example, let's duplicate that one more time, hide it, and we have this, right? So this is one of the duplicates. I can just go ahead and take the knife lasso, and maybe this is gonna be this bit is going to be the soul of the thing. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Let's go like this. Oops. You know what? Let's do it a bit better with the lasso. Hang on. It's better to do it from this side, at least for me, so I can see what I'm doing. So hold Control and Shift. I'm gonna double tap the Alt key, and that, oops, that didn't do it. So again, Alt, and if you double tap, it creates this sharp angle. Let's do it like that, and then one tap just to make it like a soft transition. Double tap and cut that away. right? Okay, so now we have this piece that's, you know, working on its own. We can turn off transparency now, and I'm gonna do the same thing with another one. So let's take the duplicate, hide it, take that one, hidden transparency, and this is gonna be maybe the bottom part, or like the back. Let's do something like this. Double tap. Got it, right? So we now have this other piece. So you see, we're starting to build something. We're starting to build kind of like the blocking of the design, and then we'll figure out the rest. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one more time. This time I'm gonna deflate it a little bit so that you can see kind of like the outlines of the other pieces, like so, right? And let's think about what we can do with this. I think we can do some kind of like strap. Let's bring in the reference, something that goes around this area. So let's just cut this. Oops. Oh, whoops. I'm gonna do it on the other side. It's hard for me to do it from the other side because I'm covering what I'm doing with my hand. I think it'll be more interesting if we keep this, like this edge higher, or like raised than compared to the other ones. So yeah, maybe let's give it a bit more of a rounded shape. And all of this is just with the knife lasso. I'm just cutting pieces away. All right, so it's starting to look a little bit more interesting. We can definitely do something more for this area. Maybe like I said, like a strap or something like that. So let's take this, deflate it out as well. Yep. I'm gonna take the lasso. Let's go ahead and do this. Nope. Oh, sorry. The other way around. So obviously ZBrush is gonna clip or cut whatever is on the shaded side of the curve. So that bit there, and then I suppose we can just cut it there, and that's it. That's just another strap. Yeah, I think that's not bad. We can just add something in here, like I feel like this could be a concentration of some of the details, and then the rest is more mechanical. Maybe something at the back, you know. So I'm gonna bring in something like the append, or we can use, no, let's just do append cube. Let's bring this down here. And I'm gonna enable Sculptris Pro with the smooth brush. Just gonna smooth this out. Just again, I don't want to have like those very sharp corners. And I'm gonna use the knife cut way around that. Now, if I want to do something similar on the other side, what I can do is mirror and weld this in the local symmetry. So I can enable local symmetry and do mirror and weld, and that way I can get this kind of result in the, in the local symmetry. I can also turn symmetry and work symmetrically just on this piece. Let's turn that off and mirror and weld. All right. I'm just trying to work on the silhouette a bit. All right, so we have all these pieces. Let's go ahead and bring them to the same level of, you know, the stylization. Again, I don't want to have these sharp corners, so I'm gonna smooth them out with the Sculptris Pro. Obviously, the size of your brush will determine the size of the polygons that you're adding. So depending on the amount of resolution you want. One thing though is that I probably did this in the wrong way. I want these to be kind of like the area that you can bend. So what I can do is just take the knife lasso and do maybe something like this, right? And that way it just gets a cut. Yeah. So even though I'm just designing, I'm also kind of like thinking about the ways that this thing could actually move. So now this makes more sense, and then I can take this other piece and just make it work. I'm gonna push this towards the front. I guess the takeaway of all of this is, again, not being attached to something specific, and then just have fun designing in 3D, which is basically what I'm doing at the moment. All right, so for the strap, the same thing, same deal. Right, I think that's roughly the idea. So you can, yeah, start to look a little bit more interesting than what we had before. So like I said, this is a strap of something. You know, we can add some like a buckle thing, something in here. Let's try that out. I'm gonna use the knife, sorry, the lasso, to cut this away. Let's do it from a different angle. Right, so it just cuts this. Maybe it's too much. Yeah, something like that. Let's go ahead and smooth it. So now we have that missing piece. Again, if you think about it, this will be like a strap, right? But in reality, it's just a solid piece. And I'm not too worried about that. Again, it's something that I will define afterwards, and that's it. So let's do a buckle or something that could just attach this. I'm gonna go ahead and append a cube. Let's make it a Q cube. The Q cube is the quick cube, which is under the tool palette for you guys at the bottom, in the initialize tab. And I think what I can do for this, let's go into solo mode, is let's go to C modeler, and I'm gonna tag these two sides, right click, I'm gonna go inset and inset that, right? And then right click on the anything on a face, Q mesh, polygroup all. I'm just gonna click and drag and just go all the way to, yeah, basically create that gap. So that would be kind of like the buckle. Let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's go to the C modeler, right click, bevel, and repeat that. And let's go ahead and mask that. I'm just, making things up here. Now, just trying to find an interesting shape for this. Maybe let's do the same thing. And I'm gonna tag the corners here. And by the way, I'm tagging with the Alt key just to tell ZBrush which are the polygons that I want to use, and then click and drag just a tiny bit. And I'm also, before I let go of the click, I can press the Alt key multiple times to change the polygrouping. And yeah, and now I can just, let's say, take these points, mask them, invert it, bring in the gizmo, then scale that up. Yeah, probably not what I want to go for. Again, I want to have those soft corners anyway, but just to show you. Yeah, I think it's fine. So I'm just gonna subdivide this, delete lower. Again, I don't care about the topology at this stage. I would probably redo this after, or if it is a very small detail and I wanna, I don't know, take this into a game engine or something, I might just simplify this too much, or this would be part of the normal map, for example. So right now I'm not worried too much about what this would look like. Sorry, not worried about how the topology works, just whether or not it looks alright for what I'm trying to do. I'm going to also bend it a little bit, so I'm going to use the bend arc. Do this, just to give it a bit of a curvature. But there we go. It's just to make it look a little bit interesting. I don't know if it really works, but we'll see. Maybe you can take these. I'm gonna mask. I'm gonna mask this thing at the bottom. Then bring this like so. So that at least there is a more interesting intersection of the shapes. Again, I don't know if this is going to work, as in if I'm gonna leave it for the design, but for now I think it just gives you an idea of what can be done. All right. Alrighty, so another thing I want to do is in this one, this bit, I'm going to use the damp standard, and I'm going to hold the Alt key just to create a bit of a sharp edge like that, and then smooth that out. And that's just to indicate that this is, I want to have this a more distinctive angle in this area. Right? And again, just to make things more interesting, because this is a separate piece, we can maybe cut somewhere there, smooth that out. And maybe something around here as well. And all of those tiny details, like I guess they help. All right, let's make this a bit sharper. All right, so that's looking a lot better than what we had before was just a blob in there. Well, let me have a look at the chat, and I have a sip of water. Reminds me of Juggernaut. The model. Would the model be printable the way it is? Yeah, so it would be printable if you just make it watertight. It doesn't have to be like, you don't need a perfect topology to print it out, just the volumes to make sure that there is no gaps. And because I'm using Sculptris Pro, I will double check, because Sculptris Pro can generate like tiny little holes. So I would just run like a couple of, integrity checks on the mesh. But yeah, it would be, if everything is tight, it will be printable. Hey, Comics Legend, have you set the date for your asset tools creation workshop? No, not yet. The thing with that workshop is that I want it to be fun, but also useful. And some of the concepts are a little bit dry. So, as in, I wanna cover things like marketing, how to set up things for, self-promotion once you have the assets, if you wanna use them as a tool to, generate some income and stuff like that. And yeah, so I don't want to make it like too business oriented, but it's important to have it there. So I'm still kind of like juggling the balance, I guess, between like the fun part, which is creating the stuff, and then making it useful. So yeah, still in the planning. Obviously, last week was kind of like wasted for me, so because of the COVID. But now that I'm feeling better, I'm just going to get back into it. And if you're part of the email, like if you register your interest in that website, I will let you know as soon as I have the dates. But I'm hoping it to be either late this month or early next, probably next month, to be completely honest. Yeah, so in case some of you guys don't know what I'm talking about, what Comics Legend is asking. Hang on, so all right, sorry, I was just bringing up my browser. So if you go to the 3D Concept Artist website, this is kind of like my online academy. There's a ribbon here at the top. So this is the only way to access this, by the way. So if you click on this, it will send you to the Asset Library Workshop. So this is a live workshop that I'm preparing to, it's not ready yet. But if you go here, you can just learn more about what the idea is. And then just put your email and name and register. So once I have everything ready for the enrollment of this live workshop, I would let you know by email, like if you drop your email here. And the idea is I'm going to walk you through the process of how I create my ZBrush brushes, some, different materials for different renderers or texturing software, how to create, lighting setups to have just ready to go that are your own, and that it can be kind of like consistent so that you can present your work, how to create, specific textures and patterns, alphas, all of that. So essentially creating a small library of assets that would help you produce things faster and be more productive. And at the end, in this workshop, the idea is that I'm going to also show you how you can share those if you want to. And if you consider them to be of high quality and all of that, you can just share them with other people. So that's basically the workshop, is how to create your own assets. And we go in depth on how to create certain things like brushes for ZBrush, alphas, PBR materials, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's not ready yet. all I wanted to show you is you can go to the 3D Concept Artist website, click on that top ribbon, and register in there. And it's just a different email list, just in case you are already part of my email list. So this morning I sent a little tip on ZBrush on how to create like smaller UI elements. But it's different. So this is just for the people that are interested in this sort of stuff, because it's gonna be a live workshop and there are limited seats, obviously, because when it's a live workshop, it's limited. Let's see. Do you use reference for these ones? I have a bunch of references in my head from things that I've researched, and yeah, but I don't have a particular reference. I might be referencing things that without being too conscious about it. So yeah, I don't have a specific design in mind. Like I said, the whole process on everything that I've been showing you is specifically for the purpose of just designing things right in 3D without having too much too much of a guide beforehand, like a 2D concept or something like that. I think I'm gonna do a padding thing, or hang on, let's just refine this a bit. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Hang on, do you have for the straps of the buckles? Can you just use the ZBrush IMM brushes? Yeah, of course you could. I mean, if that makes it easier, of course. If you already have what you want, like in this case, there's not an IMM brush to do this type of thing, or I don't have one. So yeah, but if you have it, of course. I mean, at the end of this concept, I can just convert this arm into an IMM brush, right? Just let me just do that for fun. I want to merge everything down, right? Just to give you an idea of like what the concept of having assets would do for you. I'm just gonna isolate this. Oh, let's duplicate as well. Delete hidden. Right. So I have the arm on its own. If this was like something that I had already, it's ready to go, I can just go insert, new, and now I have a new arm, right? So if you have something that works, maybe this is like a 4-arm creature for whatever reason. Which is not a bad idea, actually. Right? But anyway, yeah, you know what I mean. It's not it's more about if you have the asset ready, and if you have it, if it works, and if it's useful for what you're doing, of course, why not using it? But yeah, let me just go back. Yeah. So anyway, that's I guess that's a good point. Cool. Let's see other questions. How do you approach creating a hard surface alpha that's receding? You need like an inverted alpha? Sorry, I'm not sure what that means. You mean like an alpha for hard surface that is kind of like embedded, or that is subtracting geometry? Is that the question? Amount Noah, how much it will cost? You're referring to the workshop? I don't know yet. But it's probably like similar to what other workshops that I've done in the past would be. So Anarchijex. So it would be the same thing as any other alpha, really. Like you can take any alpha that you already have. So if I take this standard brush, let's go ahead and oh well, you can do it with the Sculptris Pro, I guess. So I'm gonna switch to drag rect, and I'm gonna select this alpha, right, like a circle, which when I drag it, it does this, maybe increase the intensity. So this is the alpha. If you turn the Z to Z sub, or just hold the Alt key, it will do that. Right? It will just make it go in. It's essentially inverting the effect, but you can do that with any brush. Right? I don't know. This could be a good idea to explore cuts and shapes. Anyway, so yeah, you could just do that with any alpha. I'm gonna reset this brush now. And let's go ahead and do some polishing, right? Mohammed, I have a question. How to remove lumpy surfaces on hard surface model? Gradual subtract from the surface. What I meant. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know what you mean by gradual subtracting. So maybe if you can formulate that question in a different way, because I'm not sure what that means. In the meantime, to answer the other question, this is what I'm going to be doing now. So right now, I'm going to switch to a different material that I use when I'm doing this type of stuff. This is a material from the forms material pack. I just show you what that is. So I think it's in the presentation. No, it's in the materials pack. It's this one, the soft colored wax material. It's just that I changed the color a little bit. But this is a pack that I have in my in the resources. So if you go to hang on, I'll just share it in case you're interested in this type of stuff. They're pretty simple but useful materials. All right, I'm gonna put it here on the chat. This is kind of like the store where I have like brushes and stuff like that. So if you go here, is this one right here, the ZBrush form materials pack. And yeah, it comes with like heaps of, I can't remember how many, but there are heaps of these type of materials, and they're all materials for ZBrush. And this pack also comes with projects. So if you load the project with the material that you want, it has all the render settings ready to go to create like this type of presentation renders. And all of these are examples of materials and stuff that have been rendered directly in ZBrush. So I have some of them for presentation, some of them for sculpting, some of them for to emulate kind of like the resin of the Form 2 printer. Anyway, so the point is, I use this one because it has this cavity detection. Which, if you don't have it, I mean, you don't have to get that. Obviously, you can. None of the stuff that I have online are necessary. All of those things are purely to enhance and improve and speed up the workflow. But you could do things manually as well. So, I think you can use the red wax, for example. So if I select the red wax, this is. I have to swallow my pride. Yeah, because I hate this material. But basically, if you go to material settings, this material has the cavity detection, right? So if you click on the cavity transition and make it to 0.1, it's gonna be more evident, or inverted altogether, and create this. I think this one looks a bit more interesting. If you don't see it, it's probably because of the cavity detection is set to 0, but you can set it to 1. And then you can start playing with the intensity of A and B. You'll see you have depth, hue, saturation, all of that from this material. And this material is using the A and B colors, plus obviously the texture. So if I click on A, make it kind of like yellow, you get this like really cool color. And then this one. So this is kind of cool, actually. Yeah, I like this one. I might just save this one for my library. right? So you see, I spent time just tweaking things. Let's go back to the material, and you can change the intensity of just one color, or like one influence of one color. So this is kind of like a rusty copper type of thing. But I like the combination of colors, so I might keep this. So I'll save that one for later. There we go. Yeah, so it's similar, and the idea is that when it has that cavity detection, this is precisely talking about the polishing techniques, and that I'm going to show you now, because this allows you to, because it has that cavity detection, it detects the cavities and the edges, so it's easier to see the surfaces and the things and the areas that need more polishing, or that need more attention, or at least bring them to the same level of polish, right? So there we go. So that's I quite like this material, actually. I have to work on it and refine it a little bit more for rendering. Let's see what the render looks like. Yeah, I think I'm gonna polish this later on. I'll make it available as well and just share it if you want. But yeah, so going back to the other one. So this has a little bit more of a shine and darker areas. So I would use this to start polishing things, right? Or at least to identify where the areas are. And I have this other one. You know what? Let's switch to that one. It's a pretty cool one. Anyway, so let's take, for example, this area right here. So I'm gonna isolate it. Well, let's see. I'm gonna select this, hide everything I don't need, like so. This part, I'm just gonna drop it in here. Shift S. Oops. Just as a reference of what I'm doing. So Shift S. All right. So you guys see what I'm doing, and now I can switch back to the sculpting material. So I want to polish this piece. Let's go ahead, and I'm gonna polygroup everything based on the individual pieces. So that way I don't have all these messy, polygroups. So let's go ahead and do that for you guys. I was gonna use this button that I have here, but you can do it from the polygroups, auto groups, and now we have different groups for each piece. And I'm also going to do a mirror and weld this point so that we have the same groups on each side. All right, so I'm gonna polish one, probably delete the other one, and then just mirror and weld again. So let's start with the one on this side. So isolate that, and I'm gonna actually, yeah, let's select that. You know what? Just to keep things clean and easy for you to follow, I'm just gonna duplicate, hide the original duplicate, and then in this duplicate, I'm just gonna do what I was doing. So I'm gonna delete hidden. So that way, I have it still as a reference in this, but I can work on its own thing. If anything, we can do is just, sorry, can hide this one, delete hidden. No, sorry, that's not what I meant. All right, delete hidden. Right, so let's do a quick save. So now I have the kind of like sketchy one part of the whole thing, but I have the one piece separate that I want to polish in a different one. So let's go into solo mode, and yeah, there's gonna be many different ways of going about it. The first thing I probably want to do is just refine things a bit. So this cut right here, I just want to make it more prominent. This panel. And potentially want another one there. This HR Geiger code as well is just part of the Geiger pack, but you know, you can use the damp standard brush for what I'm doing. As you can see, it's pretty similar. Yeah, and I think that's it. All right, so let's go into solo mode. One thing I might want to do as well is, let's go to the standard brush, drag rect, and I'm going to use an alpha, like alpha 48. Drag rect, and I'm going to increase the intensity, not that much. All right, something like that. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to create some kind of an area where I can put like a light or something. So I'm just going to show you. It's going to be easier. So with the masking tool, I'm going to mask out an area that I don't want to affect. So when I drag this like so, there's going to be this cut there, right? But there's going to be like a nice transition, or like a soft transition, and then you can just reset that. Use the clay brushes, for example. Again, I'm still kind of like designing before I go into full refinement mode. And then use the move brush as well, just to get that nice and sharp. So hopefully you can see what I'm trying to achieve here. Right, so that's the idea. So it's just a tiny little adjustment to the shape. Which is not in the original, so it's, you know, continuing with the design. And also the reason I did that is just to make things a bit more interesting for you when I do the polishing. All right, so a few things that you can do to polish this. The first one obviously is just to run a zero measure as it is, and it will probably be a decent piece. So I'm just doing that with the half switch enable, and that's it. So we could just keep doing that. If you have like pretty well-defined sharp edges, you can keep doing that. So this is kind of like the simplest way to go about it. Might not be perfect, but yeah, you can create something pretty decent, right? And then use the dynamic subdivision, and you already have something that's a lot smoother and cleaner than the other one. Obviously, that's not what I'm gonna go for. So let's go back there. But that's kind of like the easier one. Like if you want to spend too much time doing it, that's an easy way to do it. The other one, the other method, I mean, there's many ways, like I said. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this smooth brush with the Sculptris Pro and a smaller brush, just to clean this up a little bit. And when I mean clean this up, I mean kind of like bring everything to roughly the same resolution. You can also just dynamesh it if you want to. Right, so everything is roughly the same resolution. Right? Okay, so another way that we can polish this, let's use the Topology Brush. So the Topology Brush allows you to essentially paint topology, and I can just do that like bit by bit. So let's take this area for instance. I can just click and drag and literally just paint the geometry. So I'm gonna do this. right? And then another one like so. It's kind of like Retopology, just painting it, and then you just cross. But again, and whenever you're crossing the line, sort of, might add another one here, then I'll fix it later. Yeah, because I might want to have a different arrangement here, to be honest. Let's just finish this one first. And here, by the way, if you want to delete lines, you can hold the Alt key and then just delete what you don't need. It is not that you don't have, like, you don't have to. These lines don't really matter once you create them anyway. So for these, I think I'm just gonna do that. You know what? I'm just gonna finish it like that and then use the C modeler to complete it. Anyway, so this is just a quick way that you can use to you know, cut through the model. This is probably not great actually, so let's just delete all of that and do this a little bit better. So it's just again, it's just a matter of drawing lines. So I think I'm gonna do this first. Again, just draw a line there. Another one here. That just probably keep it simple. All right, so a lot better, right? And simpler. So once you finish, you know, putting your lines, and only the ones that are kind of like yellow in this case will actually be converted into geometry. So anything else won't be anything. If you do something like this, you'll see the color is slightly different. So when you create triangles, it will be kind of like red. I don't know if that's different. You can see it on the screen, but this one is red, this one is yellow. So yellow ones are quads, red ones are triangles. So let's just delete that and I'm deleting with the Alt key. Anyway, once you're happy with this, you can right-click, select the intensity of the brush itself, and the intensity is going to be how much thickness is going to be added, which I don't care right now because I'm gonna only use a single side polygon. So I'm just gonna click outside once, and you'll see that creates that polygon, right? So that's cool. We can go ahead and split on mask points, select that piece, you know, and then you can just continue refining everything in here. But yeah, I'll get to that in a second. Let me just show you something a bit more complex. So that's how you can go about creating that with the topology brush. If you want to go all around it, it's also very simple. You can just drag a line and then rotate the camera, get closer until you snap to that line, and then continue, and so on and so forth, and you know, do the same thing basically. Just create that line, and now you have this piece. So that's another method to polish that. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to show you what I would do if I were to use this method. So the first thing is I'm probably going to use the select lasso, not the lasso, sorry, the select rectangular piece. I'm going to hide it and hide this one, delete hidden, right? So now I have this floating piece, but it's a single-sided mesh, which is ideal, or this is what I want. And then I can use the move brush to, oops, let's turn off Sculptris Pro, and I can simplify it and, you know, move points a little bit easier. And this is essentially polishing this individual piece. So I'm just using that move brush to try to maintain a nice, you know, like a nice distance, like a proportional distance between all the quads or the points. All right. Anyway, so once you have this, right, you can even polish it further by just pressing, sorry, polish by features, polish by crisp edges, or polish by groups. So depending on what you want. But I have this ready. So what I can do is enable dynamics of division, which makes this really, by the way, that's under the geometry palette for you. Dynamics of division. So yeah, that makes things a lot smoother. We can make it even more like softer, just increasing the amount of subdivisions. And I can use the thickness. So I'm gonna increase that just to add thickness to that piece. Right now, basically ZBrush is taking the plane, which sits kind of like there, and is adding thickness towards the top and bottom, or like positive and negative based on the normal. Right? So you see, if I do it faster, it's right in the middle. I do it closer. So the plane sits right in the middle. So what I want to do is push everything down. So I can use the offset and do negative minus, like minus 100. And that would be just pushing things towards the bottom. That makes sense. So that means now I have the same thing I had before, but it is all dynamic, right? And I can see clearly where the, you know, where the thickness would be, and if I need to, I can just adjust this. But keep in mind that all I'm doing right now is edit or moving a single plane, which makes things a lot easier to manipulate and yeah, and just play around with the shape. So I'm just moving a single plane. If I turn off dynamic, there is my plane right there. And of course, you can, you know, sharpen things up even more, like, you know, turn off this and bring in the Z modeler, right click, insert. We add a line in there, another one there. Something like that. Right? So that sharpens things a bit. Maybe another one here. I wouldn't do it like this way, but just want to show you that you can also use the Z modeler, obviously, to sharpen things. Another way you can do that is I have the edges here. You see they have like this double dotted line indicating that they are creased. But if I go to the creasing tab here, I can uncrease all, and that obviously makes things kind of like shrink, because again, this is a single plane. And then I can go ahead and do smooth or pause subdivision smoothness, and then add smoothness to it. And that's kind of like the look that I'm going for. I don't want to have like sharp corners. So that's another way. But obviously it had, you know, it shrank a little bit, right? So I have to adjust the points. So this is the kind of like hard surface technique, but I want to keep things very smooth and organic. But yeah, this is obviously, you can see now it's a pretty polished surface, and I can test with this material and it looks pretty smooth. right, compared to the rest. This is the material that I generally use for that. So yeah, as you can see, it's a little bit of a process to get it like that. But once you get into the habit of doing it, it will be pretty easy. Alrighty. So the other method, a bit more automated, would be, let's just duplicate that shape. So I'm going to show you two more ways of polishing this, and probably the ones that I would use for this concept, because I don't need like a perfect topology for this. So I'll just show you that. Let me just check the chat. Material modifiers, yeah, they're pretty cool. What's my retopology workflow of my choice? I use a combination. Like, it's hard to say because, as you can see, depending on the project and depending on the tool that I'm using or the specific piece that I'm using, I might use a manual retopology. I might use you know, an automated topology. I'm just kind of think about, I guess, like, imagine if I have like a tube, right? Like in this case. So if I take this tube and I want to do, if I wanted to do like manual retopology on this, it will take ages and is not necessary. So I would either do a manual retopology, just guiding that. So hopefully I get to show you this, but it won't be the same thing or the same process as doing manual retopology on, let's say, the head, right? So it's hard to say like what's my retopology workflow of my choice, because it really depends on the piece and the idea of the project. So if I'm just doing a concept, which is what I'm doing right now, I can use the C modeler, sorry, the C remesher and the C modeler together. If I'm doing something for production, it's probably better to do it maybe outside of ZBrush, even though I prefer to do it in ZBrush, but you know, I could do it in Blender or in Maya or something like that. You know, but it really depends. So sorry, I don't have a specific answer for that. All right. So in this case, what I will do is perhaps splitting things up into pieces that I can manage, like smaller pieces that I can manage, and then use polygroups to do that, or to work on them. So let's do that. So I'm gonna duplicate this one more time. So I have 3 pieces. So let's put this at the bottom, turn this off. So I have this one, and it works in a similar way as what I did with the shoe. So let's take the knife, double tap, all right, so that cuts that piece. Then I have this other one, and I'll repeat the process, but whoops, inverted. So all right, so I basically want to remove that area. Cool. So this is what I mean about using Sculptris Pro sometimes. So I'll just use the close holes, close those bits. So I have this bit and I have this bit, and I probably want to have this. I don't know if I want to have this separately. Nah, I think that will be fine. Those are the only 2 pieces that I want to keep separately. And yeah, other than that, you can just, you know, just close holes. Just adjust the intersection there, in the interaction of these 2 shapes. I forgot that I had something here as well. Doesn't matter. I'll just move things around. So for this one, let's duplicate it again. And now take this one, do the same process. It kind of like helps to do it as well from the same camera angle so that you get less artifacts. Oh, this is a happy accident. I wasn't expecting to have this one. Forgot. But you know, it's kind of cool to have that extra panel in there from this cut. Anyway, so now we have a bunch of these pieces that we can go ahead and retopologize together with the C-Model. So this is another tool. This is not, by the way, this is not what I would personally use. But I just want to show you different techniques and different processes so you can choose. This thing here in the center doesn't really matter. I'm not too worried about that because what we care is kind of like the outlines, or what we're interested in keeping is the outlines. So yeah, so now that I have this, what I can do is go ahead and we can use the select lasso. I'm just thinking about another tool that I can give you. So this is a fun one. I'm gonna use this standard brush and I'm gonna convert it into a painting brush. All right, so let's fill objects just with white, and then I'm just gonna use red color, and I'm gonna paint. Let's go to hang on, just trying to. Let's do blue. So this is a kind of like a fun way of refining shapes as well. It will make sense once I do it, but basically the idea is that you can use poly paint just to color the different elements that you want to keep kind of like separate polygroups, right? Maybe we can use a green one here. So it's slightly different. Then use the red one again just to clean that up. And the idea is to use very distinctive, very different poly paint colors, so that you can play around with edge loops later. We'll use yellow for this one. And maybe this area could be green one as well. It doesn't matter if you reuse colors. The important part is just to make them distinctive enough. All right, so something like this, right? And this is just polypaint. And then what you can do is in the polygroup palette, so I have this open here, click on polygroup from polypaint. So if you click on that, let's say right now we have just a single polygroup from polypaint. Now if I turn this polypaint off, turn this on, we should have different polygroups. Not everywhere. Hang on, let's do that again. Tolerance 1, that's too much. All right, so we just need to play with the tolerance a little bit. There we go. So that's pretty much all we had to do. And yeah, so now, no, it was just the polypaint. That was what I was seeing. Okay, now I think it works. Obviously, you have these pieces that don't really work, but that's all right. We'll just take them away. I thought this was going to be a little bit faster, but you know, group all. So depending on, on what you're trying to do, this might or might not be the ideal process. But you know, I just thought I show you something extra. So I'm just trying to group things faster. If you spend more time with the tolerance thing, probably get it working a bit better. All right. So now I just got rid of those messy bits of polygons. But what we end up with is just these polygroups, right? And you can basically, let me change this color so you can see we have a different color here actually. Obviously you can do this as well with the select lasso. I'll show you that in a second. But basically with this, you can run a polish by groups from the deformation palette. So polish by groups, right? And that would clean that line based on the difference of polygroups. So let's do that a few more times. Right? And the reason this is useful on all that process is useful is because then you can go to the series measure. You can tell ZBrush that, hey, I want to retopologize all of these and I want to do it based on the polygroups, meaning I want to keep the polygroups. So let's click on keep groups. You can turn off or take the smooth groups to 0 because that's basically what I did with the deformation palette. If you don't do that, ZBrush is going to basically, if you have all those like pointy things, messy polygons in the edges, you don't have to necessarily do this manually, like what I did with the polish by groups. You can just leave the smooth groups to 1, and ZBrush is going to do that process once before it runs the retopology. I prefer to do it manually and then just turn this off so that I have control over the exact amount of polish in the difference of the polygroups. So now I can click on half or just set a target, maybe 9,000 polygons, and click on series mesh. And because I have the keep groups, ZBrush is going to try to keep those groups. And what that means is that there's going to be a loop, like as you can see, following those groups. And then obviously I can smooth things out and all of that. So let's try that one more time. And then we can use the half. Oh, smaller portions bit by bit. I'm just changing the target polygon count. But I think it did a pretty good job. Yeah. And of course, I mean, I didn't spend too much time on this one, but you can polish this like that. Just flatten it. I'm not too worried again about the topology. Again, this is a working topology. If I need to change that, I will. I just retopologize it one more time. But that just makes it flatter there, and then I can use the smooth brush to soften that. But you know, we have like this, you know, very clear, very distinctive edge that we can use to further enhance the whole thing. So basically what I mean is once you have this, you can use dynamic, and this is a pretty polished piece. Obviously, we have to smooth other areas out, but what we actually worked on is pretty smooth, right? So we now have two pieces. Not that one. We have these two pieces that are polished, and we can just work on bring them closer to the same level of polish. Right? And like I said, we have polygroups. So just for this, just for fun, let's go ahead and take the C modeler, for example. Let's take this polygroup, right click, and I'm gonna do insert, and make sure that I have polygroup all so that it affects all the polygroup. So I'm gonna do, right now it's doing triangles because, so right now it's using the equidistant version. I'm just gonna use the legacy option so that it doesn't create triangles. And I actually don't want to have those corners here, so I'm just gonna tag these points or these polygons. Yeah, so insert that. You can smooth out these corners as well. And use the Q mesh now to push this in. Right, and then I can use right click, insert, edge loop. Just add an edge loop there, another one there. Turn on dynamic. Right, and I have like that gap. Right, probably not not what I really want. Actually, let's make something a bit more interesting than that. I just want to show you that once you have the polygroups, you can take advantage of that. But you know, something closer to what I want is let's use the insert here as well. I'm just smoothing this out. I'm gonna right click and add point, and I'm just gonna do the move one, or the slide, sorry. And the slide is just a quick, easy way to move points around along the surface. So I'm like not deforming that flat surface that I have. I mean, this is, again, this is not the ideal way of creating these, but just to show you something else. So now I can tag this Q mesh, insert edge loop. Right, if you wanted to polish it like that way. Other things that you can do with these, let's say, is, oops. Select the move brush, sorry. So other things that you can do is, because you have the polygroups, you can create creases based on the polygroups. So let's remove these polygroups just so that I don't get creases. So I'm gonna assign a single polygroup to all of these visible, and then these ones as well, probably. Right, and the rest they can go, and I'm just gonna click on Crease Polygroup, and that way I get these sharp lines based on the difference of polygroups. And if you go to the creasing tab, you can change how much crisp these edges look. So in the creasing level, you can just change that to 0, and it's basically nothing. You can go to 2, and maybe increase the dynamic smoothness as well. 5. So yeah, you can play around with the creasing level, and that's it basically. That's another way to doing it. So yeah, hopefully all of these techniques are of help. That's probably not what I'm going to be using to polish mine, but you know, if in case you want to use them. So let's go back to what I had before. I'm just gonna put this into a folder. All right, so this is the one, you know, still pretty sketchy. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that one more time. So if I want to just do the topology on this, right? I would probably don't even have to split it from the actual, you know, main mesh. And let me show you what I mean. So I'm gonna hide this guy, delete hidden, mirror and well, and then I'm gonna mesh this down. All right. So basically, after all those kind of like different tips I shared, I'm back to what I had before, and I have I have my mesh, and I will do manual retopology on only the areas and the pieces that I need. So so for this plate that we're doing, like the arm, I can just do, just whatever is visible. So let's see. To keep things clean, we can go ahead and clone this. So we have a different tool, and we can work on this tool and then just bring back the pieces once we are ready. And I'll show you that by just adding appending a C-sphere. And I'm going to take that C-sphere and I'm going to scale that and just hide it somewhere that is not in the way. Inside. There we go. Let me see the chat, and I'll have a sip of water. Hi from Indonesia. Hi from Italy. Hey, how you guys doing? Polygrouping technique, zero mesh and C modular. So fast way, and this is cool. Glad you like it. All right, so this one is kind of like my preferred method, just because I have a lot more control. It takes a little bit to get used to it, but once you get used to it, it's as simple as just painting geometry. Obviously, there are a few other techniques. I might be able to show you something else with the C modular. Yeah, in another piece. But just going back to that, what I was saying before with the C-sphere, you can just add a C-sphere, and the C-sphere has some extra tools here. So I'm gonna click on Topology, and I'm just gonna click on Edit Topology. So just by doing that, it kind of like sends me to this mode where I can edit the topology. Right now, nothing changes, and if I click, nothing's gonna change. So what I need to do is go into Draw, and the Draw allows me to literally draw points once the edit topology is selected, and you will only see these once you selected a C-sphere. But this way, I can just go ahead and do this. By the way, I can select this guy, and I'm just gonna isolate this piece. Go back. And that way I can just focus on only this area. So I just hid some of it. So yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna click and then click, and you'll create that line. And then basically paint the quads, right? And this is if you want to do something a little more controlled. I'm gonna do this a little bit faster so that you can see what I mean. But I would spend a lot more time just thinking about the flow of the topology. But what I love about this this technique and this process is that, it's pretty intuitive. And if you're used to, if this happens, if ZBrush does an autosave, you have to go back and keep editing topology or like re-enable it. So what I was saying is, what I love about this process really is that if you are comfortable with retopology, as in you kind of like have a good understanding of the flow and how to solve, like, you know, certain areas like this. I'll try to do that on the fly. Then it becomes something very, very enjoyable. You don't think about too much. So let's just solve this part, because that's the only reason I really created this bit, so that I can show you something a bit more complex. All right, I kind of like zone out doing it this way. Let's again, I'm doing this super fast. I'll clean it up in a second. Just want to make sure I cover some of the basics. All right, so all right, I'll close this up and then I'll clean it. All right, it's a bit messy, but I just want to close it up. So let's say that you go and this actually works. Obviously, like I said, it's a bit messy in here. I just focus on this area, but then you can go with the move brush or the move option here, and then just arrange these points. These ones are not connected, so you can hold the Alt key and delete that. Hold Control and click again just to connect them. There we go. So this is what I would spend some time after I have placed my loops and, you know, the main lines, I suppose. Again, this is a little bit boring to watch, but that's why I'm trying to do it faster. But it's a process that, you know, once you get the hang of it, it's almost like enjoyable to do it. And what I'm trying to do at this stage, in case you know, if you want to follow along and do something similar, what I'm trying to do is maintain an even distribution of the size of the polygons, right? So, and try to keep lines straight. So that's when I start to figure out where I can add loops. So obviously this line and this star here, it's not good. So I can get rid of that. But usually that happens once I establish the main sort of like, I call them lines of action, or like the flow, the topology. Right, so I can now go ahead and delete all of that. We don't need it. And see this a bit more clearer. Right, so now we have like a bit of a much better distribution. So some straight lines in here. And I can do the same here. And maybe you can connect this like that. All right, but anyway, though all of this could be like a whole session on its own, just talking about topology and why I'm making the choices I'm making. But yeah, let's keep it simple. And obviously, this could be, this could be simplified even more. As in, I'm just doing this without much planning, and I usually would plan the retopology, but in an effort to save some time as well. And of course, it can also be way more optimized than what I'm doing. As in, we can get rid of some loops and some quads. So here it's a bit messy. Again, that could be simplified and improved a lot more. But anyway, so that's roughly what I was getting at. Now that you have these, you can extend the retopology. So I can hold Control, click, and start creating these loops, creating these kind of like gaps. Is there a relax tool for this? Yeah, the smooth brush is the relax tool. I can go ahead and hide these bits as well, just so that I can continue the topology there. All right, I think I'm not gonna spend too much time in here because I have like 20 minutes. Today I've just been showing you like different techniques rather than polishing anything. But yeah, this is roughly the manually or the manual retopology approach. I'll try to complete this quickly so I can show you the next step, and then it's basically rinse and repeat for the rest of the objects. There's some areas as well, by the way. So I don't have to do everything with this tool. I can then create this into a, into a mesh that I can further edit with the C-modeler. But I can create a loop like this, or then just wait until I have the actual mesh that I'm going to use, or the object, and then create an insert loop in there with the C-modeler. So just a combination of different tools. All right, so what I was going to do is complete this in here to sort of have that gap. We're nearly there. All right, just a few more points and can wrap it up. I'm not gonna do this one just because it's more of the same. So yeah, of course, looking at it from different angles, you will realize there are some areas that can definitely be relaxed and fixed, especially here. I mean, I can easily just convert this into a much more usable topology. But anyway, so once you have this, what you can do is go to the adaptive skin, and then you can preview it. So obviously we don't need Dynamesh, so I'm gonna set this to 0. I'm gonna go into solo mode, so you can see the kind of like the wireframe. And if I click on preview, actually let's turn the density to 1. I can see a preview of that piece of geometry, which is pretty cool. So yeah, once I'm happy with that, let's click on make adaptive skin. Right, we still have this tool. If something doesn't work or we don't like it, we can come back and edit this. But now we have a new piece, this one right here, and we can do some little edits for things that might not be great. And again, that's manually adjusting this. But because we created our own kind of like loops. This is the relax tool. Basically, I'm just using the smooth brush. But because we created our own loops and had control over the topology, even though it's not great, we can create our own polygroups. So use the select lasso, hold Control and Shift, and auto group that. So now we have this that goes all around. We can also maybe isolate this one. So auto group that. Whoops. Hide this one and this one. Auto group that. I think that's what we want. No, actually, let's auto group that and that one as well. Right, so you start like polishing it like this, and at this stage you can go back and use the dynamic subdivision. So now you have a clean piece. We can use the same techniques I showed you before. So Crease Polygroup. So it will crease all the polygroups, and that's why I created this line. You can also manually crease things. So use the C-modeler. So we can crease or uncrease certain areas. So right click, crease edge, can crease this, right? If I wanted to do something more, like something sharper there. And to uncrease, you can hold the Alt key, by the way. So that's what I just did there. Yeah. So that's another way to polish one thing. And at this stage, if I copy this, I'm bringing it here, paste. I can hide this portion, even though I don't have everything. And I can take these, and I can also use another technique that I just showed you before. Just add thickness in the negative, just to make it solid all around. Right? And yeah, so that's a simple, not that simple, but a lengthy way of controlling your topology. Like I said, there are many different ways of doing the same thing. To keep things simple, what I would actually do for this concept is to essentially split the polygons, or use the polygroups that are simple, and then I can just do them individually. So for example, just we have like 10 minutes, so I'm gonna give you an example of what I'll do. Let's clear that up. I'm gonna do another clone just to keep it clean. I would split these ones, right, and go, let's split hidden. Then I'll take these ones as well, right, split hidden. So probably all of the big pieces can be done separately. So split hidden, split hidden. I'll try to do this fast. Split hidden. You can just split everything, right, and then go one by one, which actually is not a bad idea. So let's split, group split. Okay, so that gives me heaps of subtools, right? So obviously I'm not gonna retopologize things like this, right? Because that is just a matter of inserting another IMM brush, or just using this. This already has a pretty decent topology anyway. But let's take this piece, right? It works. Let's enable radial symmetry. Activate symmetry, and just remesh it. So that's going to look already pretty nice. But anyway, let me undo that. So I have a tool called Dyna to Subdim. So it's basically a quick way to turn a Dynamesh object or something like this, a sketchy, into a subdivision approach. So what I can do with this piece, right, is Dynamesh it with a high resolution, something like that. Maybe polish it. So this one is already pretty close to what I want for the final, let's say. And then what I can do is use this tool, Dyna to Subdi. This is a macro that I created myself, and I'll show you what it does. So when I press that, ZBrush is going to go through the different steps that I set up for this macro, and it's going to produce a subdivision mesh, right? So now I have this mesh that has subdivision. It is pretty high res anyway, but it doesn't matter. Like, again, this is not going to be for a game or anything. I don't have to worry about the level of subdivision. I just want to be able to polish things with more control. So basically, now I think I will be able to reconstruct one level of subdivision as well. Yeah, so 33,000 polygons. So this is plenty. Again, if you want, you can just improve this, or this. You can totally increase or decrease the polygon count. I don't need to do that because, again, this is going to be just a concept. But I now have subdivision levels, right? So that allows me to polish things with a lot more control, just because we have quads everywhere. And in here, things like this, I can just, let's use the standard brush, reset brush, hold the Alt key. I'm just pushing things in. And this is the type of hard surface style that I like for this creature, that is not like super sharp, but then you have interesting cuts like here. And this would happen, I mean, you can do that with the Dynamesh sketch, but this is a lot easier to do it with a clean topology. All right, I'm also going to use the damp standard brush with the Alt key just to sharpen this and then smooth that out again. So this is what I like to use this material because it just basically allows you to, if you hold the Alt key, you get this orange line. If you get, you know, the inverter effect, you get the green line. So the two colors allow you to sort of like have control a little bit more of, you know, the volumes, I guess, or at least see them a little bit better. So then the rest of the process is more like a sculpting, really, just refining those bits. But it's pretty straightforward. We're running out of time, so let me just show you kind of like what that macro does in case you want to build it. I think I've covered that in other streams as well, but so you know. It's nothing too fancy, but it's super helpful. So as you can see, this is the piece that already has subdivision levels, and then I can go back and forth and yeah, and start cleaning it up. So that's good. All right, so we have 5 minutes. Let me see the chat quickly. Hi from Argentina. Hey, how you doing? Zero relax too. The topology stuff seems cool. What is the picture in the top right document? I'm taking your course. What is the picture on the top left corner? Sorry, this is just this is this. Sorry, I just left it there. Let me clear that up. Control N. I just dropped that as a reference for the type of polishing that I was doing. But that's about it. I can take this. That's basically what I'm doing, and do the same thing. So this is that thing that I had on the left hand side on the top. Again, this is pretty sketchy. Dyna to subd. That's it. Reconstruct. So now I have subdivision levels for this. I can just polish things a bit. And then just concentrate on refining those assets. But as you can see, this is way faster than all the rest of the tools that I show you today for Retopology. And then you just have a clean base and you can do things like this. So let's do pinch, for example. And that sort of helps to refine that gap. And we can make it a bit sharper. And then use the standard brush to add a bit of an edge here. Again, I don't want to make it like super hard surface stuff. Let's subdivide things a bit more. And again, because we have this clean topology now, I can go ahead and maybe create a panel. All right. So as you can see, we have these two pieces that are pretty decent and still need a little bit more polishing, but we have completed kind of like that process relatively quickly, and we have subdivision levels. So it's a pretty simple process, but I think it works. So we have 2 minutes left. One material I'm using. So the material I'm using is from the form pack. I'm using this one, the soft colored wax. So the soft colored wax, I just changed the colors in the modifiers to be green and orange. The default one, let me just switch to another one. I think if I load this, yeah. So this is the one that I'm using. This is the default that comes with the pack. I just changed the colors a little bit to be more like this, like green. But this works in the same way. It still gives you, the very, a very easy way to recognize the highs and the lows of the mesh for polishing. How do I find when your next stream next live stream is? It would be in a couple of weeks. So I do it every other week. So what's today's date? So today is the 12th. So the next one will be on the 26th for me. So it's the 12th because I'm in Australia. So if you are on a different part of the world, might be Monday for you still. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me just show you what this Dyna to sub D button does, so that you can create your own. It's just a macro, essentially a set of steps to produce something quickly. So let me just do that quickly because it's nothing fancy. I'm gonna take a cube, make it a polymesh 3D cube, and I'm gonna Dynamesh that single polygroup. Okay, so let's do something with this, just so that it can be done with anything. It doesn't have to be, it could be like high res Dynamesh. So anyway, you have these, right? And then you wanna, let's say, do a quick retopology and maintain the details. So let's just do a couple of details so that you know that you can keep those to a degree. Right? So the thing is, the process for this, like the manual process, would be to duplicate it. Right? So I'll do it. I'll do the manual one just so that you can see. I will duplicate this. I will run a ZBrush a couple of times, right, just to simplify the mesh. Then I will project, well, I subdivide this a few times again to have geometry, and then I will project the details, and then I will polish things, right? So now I have subdivision with the projected details and a clean geometry, right? That's kind of like, you can do that, but that button that I'm going to delete that. The button that I use, this Dyna to sub-D, basically what it does is it selects this and it divides the geometry. Right? I think I can't remember exactly the steps, but it divides the geometry. So now I have a little bit more resolution. It's kind of like a quick polish. Then it freezes the subdivision level, right? And when it freezes the subdivision level, it jumps to a half zero measure. I think you can do it twice or something. Let's do it twice, right? So we now have a new, let me change the material. So now we have a cleaner topology, essentially what I did manually before, but we have the subdivision levels frozen, and I can just reconstruct that. Oh no, sorry, not that. Click on freezing, right? So when you unfreeze the subdivision level, Zero is going to use whatever base we have, which in this case is now a cleaner topology, and the subdivision level we had before, and it's going to project those details back into the mesh. So I can subdivide this one more time. We want to clean the mask, and we essentially have our base mesh with a nice topology, in the background and subdivision level. So yeah, you can set all that up in your own macro, and that's basically what I do with my Dyna to sub-D. So if I go back here, right? So I'm gonna, yeah, let's do it here. I'll just click on Dyna to sub-D. You see, it does that. It just Dynamesh, increases the subdivision level, freezes the subdivision, does the zero measure, and then brings me to this subdivision level. And I usually can reconstruct one level, so I can go back one more. But now we have subdivision, which is pretty cool. It's just a simple but effective way of automating that process that I've been showing you, which is the polishing of this. All right. It's also possible to make a material with 3 or more color tones. Yeah, it depends on what material you use as a base. Madcap usually is probably the best. So this is something, it has yellow, red, and blue, and this is based on the wax material. I did that earlier today, so you can just rewind a little bit and have a look on how I did it. It's just basically changing the modifier. So the base of the material is that red from the red wax, but then you have these color A and color B, which are the yellow and blue, and you can change it. And so it creates that kind of like nice looking, interesting material. And in fact, that's what I would encourage people to do. Like when you get something like this thing. This is something I shared before as well. So the ZBrush 4 materials pack. This is a pack of, I don't remember how many, but 50 custom madcaps. You download them. They come with the project settings. But what is cool to do is open up one of those materials and then play around with those, those settings. So let's just take this madcap brown and I'll show you. So I will take something like, I don't know, this soft orange, right? Double click, just load them. So now I have this soft orange, which is a custom madcap that I created for presentation and stuff like that, which is pretty useful for certain things. And I would just go to the material and just explore the material itself and change a few things. So I can increase the cavity detection and then push this down. So you see on this side, minus, and then change the A and B just to completely change the material again. So most of the settings are already done. Like I already set up most of the settings, but then you can just change the color of those, and then you have something completely different. Same thing goes for materials like these, or even this one that has more of a metallic beetle nature. So it has obviously the the images that I use to create most of it, but then you can change the reflection. And create some kind of like a glowing thing. Anyway, so that's just a fun thing to do with those materials in ZBrush. But yeah, so if you like this one, this is just, you can basically do the same thing. If you rewind this session, I show you how to do this one. Otherwise, I'll just share it around. It's a pretty simple one based on the wax, the red wax. Let's call it the Superman, the metallic Superman, I'm gonna call it. All right, so yeah, I think I just went over my time a little bit, but thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully this has been of help. I didn't get to polish many things, but it was more about showing you some of different techniques that you can follow. So we might continue with this one in the next session, the 26th for me, 25th for most of you guys that are on the other side of the world. Other than that, like I said at the beginning, if you're interested in creating your own assets, you can register already in here. So this is the a live workshop that I'm gonna do probably next week. Next month. I don't have dates yet, but this is what the website is for. You can just go ahead and drop your name and email, and as soon as I have the dates, I will let you know. And it's going to be a live workshop of probably 5 days, like an intensive workshop to create your own library of assets. And I will go through the process of, setting them up and, going through, all the steps that you can do to, share them around and, sell them if they're of good quality and you want to, make some extra income and stuff like that. So it's going to be an interesting, different workshop. Not necessarily to create a specific asset, but a bunch of them. So brushes, alphas, PBR materials, lighting scenarios, IMM brushes, all of that in one single workshop. So yeah, if you're interested, just go in here. You can go to the 3conceptartistwebsite.com, click on this ribbon here at the top, and it will send you here. And then you just drop your email and name, and I'll let you know once the dates are set for the workshop. Can we have the link? Yeah, sure. I'll put it here in the chat. That's the link. You can just click on that and register there if you're interested. All right. Didn't know there were so many material settings. Yeah, there are plenty. You can play around with them. They're pretty awesome. You can get some really cool stuff just by doing that. All right, so I'm just gonna leave it here. By the way, so Ryan, I think is it Ryan Sullivan? So we have a live session tomorrow with the Extra Mile. So make sure that you check that in the private community. We're gonna do a Q&A and just go over some of the feedback for the projects tomorrow. So make sure that you check that out, and I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. And for those extra milers, I'll see you tomorrow. All right, take it easy, guys. Bye.